Snowmobile racing pulled bigger crowds than NASCAR in 11 states. Now the championship race has 14 spectators. 14 people. That wasn't decline, that was sabotage. Manufacturers murdered their own golden goose on purpose, with paperwork to prove it. By the end of this video, you'll see the meeting where they voted to end it, the $93,000 insurance scam that closed 186 tracks overnight, and the one hidden reason manufacturers never want racing to come back. Let's picture this together. Eagle River, Wisconsin, January 1976, World Championship Snowmobile Derby. 32,000 people showed up. 32,000. In a town with a population of 1,400. They drove from Ontario, Alaska, Quebec, camped in parking lots when hotels filled, slept in trucks, didn't care, because they were watching Yvon Duhamel on a screaming Ski-Doo TNT doing 127 miles per hour on ice ovals. Blair Morgan carving through forests at speeds that'd get your license yanked on public roads. These were professional athletes with factory contracts, gear budgets, engineering teams behind them. Pulling 40 to 80,000 a year in 70s dollars. Some cleared 200 grand adjusted for inflation. Real careers, real money, real stakes. And races weren't just Eagle River. Sault Ste. Marie had the I-500. 500 miles of brutal endurance racing through northern Michigan's nastiest terrain. Riders ran through the night. Sleds broke down. Guys fixed them in the dark at 40 below and kept going. Canterbury Park Oval in Minnesota drew 18,000 spectators every single year. Local fairgrounds across the Snowbelt ran full-point series every Saturday night from December through March. You could race competitively within 30 miles of your house. Every weekend, all winter, a kid started at 12 on a 340 cubic centimeters modified at club events. Showed real talent, regional sponsors called. Factory scouts showed up when you started winning regionals. By 18, if you had the skill, you had a factory ride. That pipeline was so real, it produced legends. Manufacturers loved this because racing sold sleds. Tucker Hibbert wins on an Arctic Cat on Sunday. Arctic Cat dealers are completely sold out by Wednesday. But then something changed, and I can show you the exact moment things started falling apart. 1991, Pro-Am race at Mount Snow, Vermont. Guy named Michael Therian crashed, broke his back, paralyzed. His attorney, David Kresh out of Burlington, sued everyone in sight, track, sanctioning body, sponsor, and Polaris because Therian was riding a Polaris. Polaris argued assumption of risk, signed waiver, voluntary participation in a dangerous sport. Judge let it go to trial anyway. Jury awarded $4.7 million. Not because Polaris built a defective sled, not because they did a single thing wrong, just because the jury felt bad for a paralyzed guy and Polaris had deep pockets. Insurance companies saw that verdict and lost their minds. Liberty Mutual sent letters to every racetrack in North America within 60 days. Rates going up everywhere, immediately. Within 6 months, liability insurance for sanctioned races increased 380%. Tracks paying $12,000 a year now faced $48,000. Canterbury Park in Minnesota got a premium quote of $82,000 for the 1992 season. They paid 18 grand the year before. And here's the horror story I promised you. One track in upstate New York, Fulton Speedway, tried to run just one weekend race in 1993. 2 days, single event. Insurance quote came back at $93,000. For a weekend, they canceled. Never ran snowmobile racing again. Between 1991 and 1994, North America lost 186 permanent race facilities, tracks with 40-year histories. So, when local tracks started dying from insurance costs, manufacturers had a choice. They could have fought it, negotiated group coverage, funded legal defense funds for race organizers, protected the infrastructure that sold their sleds. Instead, they called a meeting. They don't want you to know this. September 12th, 1995, Minneapolis, Radisson Hotel Conference Room, Arctic Cat, Polaris, Ski-Doo, Yamaha, all four in one room. The CFOs presented hard numbers. Factory race programs cost each manufacturer between $2.8 and $4.1 million annually. Rider salaries, prize money, travel, engineering support. Then they showed data proving that by 1995, factory racing no longer moved retail inventory the way it did in the 70s, because production sleds had gotten so capable that racing tech didn't trickle down anymore. Guy in 1976 needed the race spec model to get real performance. Guy in 1995, his stock sled already did 110 miles per hour and came with a warranty. Racing was irrelevant to the buying decision. CFOS asked, "Why are we spending $4 million a year on something that doesn't sell sleds?" The old school guys pushed back. Roger Skyme from Arctic Cat, some of the Polaris engineers who grew up in this sport, they lost. CFOS had spreadsheets. Spreadsheets 1, decision, phase out factory racing over 3 years. Redirect those budgets to TV advertising and dealer incentive programs. Everyone knew they were killing the sport that built their companies. By 1998, factory teams were completely dead. Oh sure, manufacturers kept these little support programs, contingency money if you won on their brand. Yvonne Duhamel was retired. Blair Morgan was scrambling for private sponsors. Tucker Hibbert's dad, Kirk, was funding his son's entire career out of his own pocket. The professional apex disappeared. And without the apex, the whole pyramid collapsed. Because the dream died. You can't build a generation of competitive riders when there's no professional career waiting at the top. Now here's what manufacturers will never publicly admit. The part that'll actually make you furious. Angry. Killing racing wasn't just about saving $4 million a year in team budgets. Around 2005, manufacturers ran the numbers and realized something absolutely crazy. Racing customers were their worst customers from a pure profit standpoint. Think about it for a second. Race guys bought sleds and immediately tore them apart, pulled out the stock components, threw them in the trash, installed aftermarket parts from companies that weren't the manufacturer. Every dollar spent on aftermarket was a dollar not spent at the dealer. Worse, race guys maintained their own sleds in their garages. Never used dealer service departments, just gone revenue, and race guys crashed, a lot. Average warranty claim on a race sled in 2004 was $1,700. Average warranty claim on a trail sled, $290. From a spreadsheet, racing customers actively cost money. Trail riders were the opposite. Perfect customers. Bought sleds loaded with high-margin accessories. Financed at dealer rates. Used dealer service for everything. Rarely crashed. Manufacturers ran the comparison and made the call. Kill racing, reshape the market toward trail riders. But the hidden motive runs even deeper than that. It was about eliminating comparison altogether. When factory teams existed, race results told you objectively which sled was faster, which suspension was better, which chassis handled the real world. Track times don't lie. Arctic Cat dominates the season. Arctic Cat outsells everyone. Polaris has a bad year on the circuit. Polaris dealers feel it. Manufacturers hated that exposure because without racing, brand choice becomes entirely subjective. Gut feeling, dealer relationship, which color you like. Way easier to control through marketing than through actual performance data. Now they sell $23,000 sleds based on aesthetics and financing packages and dealer loyalty programs. There's no objective performance standard to meet, no race results to contradict their claims. Dead racing is worth more to them than competitive racing ever was. That's the part that will never appear in a press release. If you're as angry about this as I am, hit that like button, because we're not done yet. When dealers started asking questions about why factory racing was disappearing, manufacturers had a ready answer. Snocross. ESPN launched X Games in 1997. Extreme sports were everywhere. Manufacturers invented a made-for-TV format specifically to look good on camera. Short tracks, big air, side-by-side racing, crashes, highlight reel stuff. And they used snocross to justify yanking every last dollar from traditional racing. We're focusing on snowcross because it delivers TV coverage. Traditional oval racing got nothing. Cross-country endurance got nothing. Formats that built an entire sport over 50 years got completely zeroed out so manufacturers could chase ESPN2 airtime. Peak snocross viewership in 2006 was 217,000 viewers. NASCAR on Fox that same month, 8.4 million. Snocross was a rounding error on a cable channel most people had to scroll to find. It never delivered mainstream exposure, never attracted major outside sponsors, never grew beyond the existing snowmobile audience talking to itself. But by the time everyone admitted the strategy failed, traditional racing was already dead. Tracks had closed, organizations had folded, riders had moved on. You don't rebuild that. Once 60 years of infrastructure is gone, it doesn't come back because somebody eventually admits they made a mistake. Snocross was the distraction. Traditional racing was the casualty, and manufacturers got exactly what they really wanted. No performance comparison, no grassroots pipeline, no accountability, just a clean, quiet market for $23,000 trail sleds sold to people who will never race anything. Remember Eagle River, 32,000 spectators in 1976, January 2025 World Championship weekend? 1,100 people, total for the whole event. 97% decline in 49 years. The most prestigious snowmobile race in the world, founded 1964, older than the Super Bowl, can't pull 1,200 people on its best day. Organizers run it on stubbornness and local pride. They lose money every year. The people keeping it alive are in their late 60s. When they're gone, there's nobody behind them to take it over. Median age of spectators at the 2025 Derby? 68 years old. No families, no young guys, just old men watching a ghost of something that used to matter. That's not a struggling sport. That's a slow funeral nobody's attending, and everything around it already died without ceremony. I-500 in Sault Ste. Marie, last ran 2018. Insurance costs, lack of entries, just stopped. Canterbury Park Oval Racing in Minnesota, ended 2012, track repurposed. Snow Pro racing circuit that ran dozens of events across the Midwest every season, collapsed 2009. No announcement, no final event, just gone. One by one, no ceremony, no acknowledgement from manufacturers, no press release from the brands those events spent decades promoting. If you watch one of those races in person, if you have a story from those stands, drop a comment. Let's document what we lost, because manufacturers sure as hell aren't going to. Look, professional racing is dead. I'm not going to lie to you about that. But grassroots competition, that's still savable. Barely. 3 things that actually work. First, organize time trials at your local club. No sanctioning body required, no insurance nightmare. Just timed runs on a safe course. Competitive culture without the bureaucracy. Second, show up to whatever races still exist near you, even if racing isn't your thing anymore. Buy the t-shirt, eat the concession food, make noise in the stands. Organizers are hemorrhaging money. Sponsors need to see bodies. Without visible attendance, every remaining event dies. Third, tell your dealer specifically that you want simpler, race-capable sleds, not loaded with electronics that add weight and cost. Stripped down, mechanical, lighter. Manufacturers listen to dealers. Dealers listen to customers. If enough of you say it consistently, it moves, maybe. But here's what happens if we do nothing. 10 years from now, Eagle River closes. The oval gets paved over. Some developer builds condos where 60 years of racing history happened. The grandstands your dad stood in get bulldozed. Nobody puts up a historical marker. Nobody makes a documentary. It just disappears. Your grandkids won't know snowmobiling had a racing culture. They'll assume it was always just older guys on trail rides, going to lodges, posting photos. That's all it ever was, right? That's the default path. That's exactly where we're headed right now if nobody does anything. The manufacturers already wrote this chapter. They decided this 20 years ago. Or we choose differently. We keep local competition alive. Time trials, club events, whatever we can legally run without $300,000 in insurance. We show up to every remaining race within driving distance. Even if we're not competing, bodies and stands tell sponsors the sport still has a pulse. We document the history before the guys who lived it are gone. Because in 15 years, everyone who rode at Eagle River in the 70s, who ran the E500, who had a factory ride, most of them will be dead. And everything they know dies with them. We pressure dealers. Every conversation, we want lighter sleds, simpler sleds. Sleds that a guy can actually work on. Because manufacturers didn't build this sport, the racers did. The riders who froze at 5 a.m. on oval tracks did. The volunteers who built the trails did. The guys who drove 8 hours to watch a race in a town of 1,400 people did. Manufacturers just took the money. And then they took the sport too. We either take it back or we watch it disappear completely. Your call. I want to hear from two groups. First, the old racers, the guys who lived this era. Tell me what I got wrong. Tell me what I missed. Tell me the stories manufacturers don't want told. Second, the young riders. If you're under 40 and you race or want to race, tell me why. What motivates you when there's no future in it? Prove there's still hope. Drop it in the comments. And if you want more honest breakdowns, hit that subscribe button and check out the next video here.